The scream tore through the night. Sharp and desperate. A child's cry swallowed by the creak of a rusted trailer door slamming shut. 7-year-old Eli clung to his mother's trembling hand. His small body pressed against her as they fled down a gravel road in rural Ohio. The stars above cold and indifferent. Behind them, his father's drunken shouts faded. But the bruises on Eli's arms throbbed with every step. A reminder of the monster they were escaping. 17 years later, Eli Bennett stood in the mirror of his cramped Brooklyn apartment, staring at the man he'd become. At 24, he was wiry, with sharp cheekbones and green eyes that held too many secrets. His life had been a patchwork of survival foster homes, odd jobs, and a quiet determination to outrun his past. But tonight, his heart raced for a different reason. He was meeting Jamie, the man who'd been unraveling his defenses for months. And for the first time, Eli felt ready to say the words he'd buried deep. I'm gay. Eli's mother, Clara, had been his anchor after they escaped his father, Tom, a man whose fist spoke louder than words. Clara had worked double shifts at diners, scraping by to keep Eli safe, promising him a future where fear wouldn't rule. They'd built a fragile but hopeful life, first in Ohio, then in New York, where Eli could blend into the city's chaos. But coming out to her last month had shifted something. Her smile had faltered, her eyes clouding with something Eli couldn't name: guilt, maybe, or fear. She hadn't rejected him, but her silence stung worse than words. The Brooklyn bar was alive with chatter and clinking glasses when Eli arrived. Jamie was already there, leaning against the counter, his black hair catching the neon glow, his warm brown eyes locking onto Eli with a grin that made the world feel softer. At 25, Jamie Torres was a carpenter with calloused hands and a laugh that could pull Eli out of his darkest spirals. They'd met at a community art class, where Jamie's bold sketches and easy confidence had drawn Eli in like a moth to flame. You look nervous, Jamie teased, sliding a beer across the table. His voice was low, playful, but his gaze held a quiet intensity that saw through Eli's bravado. Eli laughed, the sound shaky. Maybe I am. He took a sip, the cold liquid steadying him. There's something I need to tell you. Jamie's brow lifted, but he leaned closer, his knee brushing Eli's under the table. I'm listening. The words caught in Eli's throat, heavy with years of hiding. He thought of the kids in foster care who'd mocked him, the teachers who'd looked away, the nights he'd spent wondering if he was broken. But Jamie's presence was a tether, grounding him. I'm gay, Eli said, his voice barely above a whisper. And I think I'm falling for you. The silence that followed felt like eternity. But Jamie's smile broke through, warm and unguarded. Took you long enough, he said, his hand finding Eli's across the table. I'm falling for you too. For the first time, Eli felt weightless, as if the shadows of his past couldn't touch him. They talked for hours, the bar fading into a blur, their hands intertwined like a promise. Jamie shared stories of his own growing up in a loud, loving Puerto Rican family in the Bronx. Coming out at 16, the sting of rejection from some cousins, but the fierce support of his mother. Eli envied that certainty, that sense of belonging. His own mother loved him, but her hesitation after his coming out gnawed at him. When Eli got home, his phone buzzed with a text from Clara. We need to talk. I'm coming to New York tomorrow. The words were simple, but they landed like a stone in his gut. Clara rarely visited. She lived in a small apartment in Albany now, working as a nurse. Her life steady but distant. Eli typed a quick reply, trying to ignore the unease creeping in. He fell asleep with Jamie's voice in his head, a fragile hope battling the ghosts of his childhood. The next morning, Eli met Clara at a diner near his apartment. She looked older than he remembered. Her dark hair streaked with gray. Her hands fidgeting with a napkin. Eli, she began, her voice tight. There's something I need to tell you. His stomach twisted. What is it? Mom. She looked down, her fingers shredding the napkin. Your father. Tom. He's out of prison, and he's coming to see us. The world tilted. Eli's breath caught, his mind flashing to that gravel road. The bruises. The terror. What do you mean? Coming to see us. His voice was sharp, louder than intended. You said we'd never see him again. Clara's eyes welled up. He's changed. Eli. He got sober in prison. He wants to make things right. Make things right. Eli's laugh was bitter, cutting. He beat us. Mom. He broke my arm when I was 5. You think he can just walk back into our lives? Clara reached for his hand, but he pulled away. I know you're angry, she said, but he's your father. And after you told me about you, I thought maybe this could be a chance for healing. Eli stared at her, disbelief warring with betrayal. She'd known he was gay for weeks, and now she was bringing back the man who'd haunted his nightmares, as if his coming out had opened a door to the past. This isn't about healing, he said, standing. This is about you not accepting me. He left the diner, his heart pounding, the city blurring around him. Jamie was waiting at his apartment, and when Eli told him everything, Jamie pulled him close, his arms a steady anchor. You're not alone in this, Jamie whispered. We'll face it together. But as Eli leaned into him, the weight of his father's return loomed, a storm gathering on the horizon. He didn't know if he could outrun it this time. Eli spent the next few days in a haze, his mind caught between the warmth of Jamie's presence and the dread of his father's return. The Brooklyn streets, usually a comforting blur of noise and color, felt claustrophobic, every corner hiding the shadow of Tom's face. Eli hadn't seen him since that night at 7, but the memory was vivid. Tom's hulking frame, his slurred curses, the way his fists turned love into fear. Jamie tried to keep things light, dragging Eli to a street fair in Williamsburg. The air smelled of fried dough and roasted corn, and Jamie's laughter as he won a stuffed bear at a ring toss game almost pulled Eli out of his spiral. For you, Jamie said, tossing the bear to Eli with a grin. To remind you I've got your back. Eli clutched the bear, its goofy smile a stark contrast to the knot in his chest. What if he shows up? Jamie. What if he's the same? His voice cracked, and he hated how small it made him feel. Jamie's expression softened, and he pulled Eli into a quiet alley beside a food truck. Then we deal with it, he said, his hands framing Eli's face. You're not that kid anymore. You're stronger than you know. He kissed Eli gently, and for a moment, the world felt steady again. But the moment shattered when Eli's phone rang that evening. It was Clara, her voice strained. Tom's here. In Albany. He wants to meet you. I told him you're in Brooklyn. But he's insistent. Eli's grip tightened on the phone. You gave him my address. The betrayal cut deeper than he expected. No, Clara said quickly. I'd never. But he knows you're in New York. He says he just wants to talk. Talk? Eli scoffed. He doesn't get to just talk after what he did. He hung up, his hands shaking. Jamie, sitting on the couch, looked up from his sketchpad. Concern etched across his face. He's coming, isn't he? Jamie asked quietly. Eli nodded, sinking beside him. I don't know what to do. Mom thinks he's changed, but I can't trust that. I can't trust her right now. Jamie set the sketchpad aside, revealing a drawing of Eli, his profile soft in pencil. eyes bright with something like hope. You don't have to face him alone, Jamie said. But you need to decide what you want. Not what your mom wants. Not what he wants. You. Eli stared at the drawing, his throat tight. He'd spent so long running from foster homes, from his father's violence, from himself. Coming out to Jamie had been the first time he'd stopped running, the first time he'd let himself want something real. But now, with Tom looming, the urge to flee was clawing at him again. The next day, Eli went to work at the bookstore where he shelved novels and rang up customers. The monotony a temporary shield. His co-worker, Maya, a sharp-witted woman in her 30s, noticed his distraction. You look like you're carrying the world, she said, leaning against a stack of paperbacks. Eli hesitated, then told her about Tom. Maya's face hardened. My dad was a piece of work too, she said. Not like yours, but bad enough. You don't owe him anything. Eli. Not a conversation. Not a second chance. Nothing. Her words stuck with him, but so did Clara's plea for healing. By the time Eli got home, his head was a war zone of doubt and anger. Jamie was there, cooking dinner pasta with marinara, the kitchen warm with the scent of garlic. You're quiet, Jamie said, stirring the sauce. Talk to me. Eli sat at the counter, picking at a loose thread on his sleeve. I keep thinking about what Mom said. About him being sober, wanting to make things right. What if she's right? What if I'm the one holding on to hate? Jamie turned, his eyes steady. You're not holding on to hate. You're protecting yourself. There's a difference. He set the spoon down and crossed to Eli, pulling him into a hug. You don't have to forgive him to move forward. You just have to choose what's best for you. That night, Eli dreamed of the trailer in Ohio, the walls closing in, Tom's shadow filling the doorway. He woke gasping, Jamie's arm around him, grounding him in the dark. I'm here, Jamie whispered, and Eli clung to him, the warmth of his body a lifeline. The next morning, Clara called again. He's coming to Brooklyn, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Tomorrow. I tried to stop him, Eli, but he's determined. I'm coming too. I need to be there for you. Eli's heart sank. He wanted to scream at her, to demand why she'd let this happen. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, he said, Fine. But this is on you, Mom. He hung up, his hands trembling as he turned to Jamie. They're both coming. Tomorrow. Jamie's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Then we'll face them together. But Eli, you need to know what you want from this. Closure. Confrontation. Or just to walk away. Eli didn't have an answer. All he knew was that the past he'd fought so hard to escape was barreling toward him. And no amount of running could stop it now. The day Tom was set to arrive, Brooklyn felt like a pressure cooker, the air thick with late summer humidity. Eli woke early, his stomach churning. Jamie's steady breathing beside him, the only thing keeping him from bolting. He stared at the ceiling of his apartment, tracing cracks that mirrored the fractures in his life. Today, he'd faced the man who'd haunted him for 17 years and his mother, whose choices had reopened those wounds. Jamie stirred, his hand finding Eli's. You okay? He asked, voice rough with sleep. No, Eli admitted. But I'm glad you're here. Jamie squeezed his hand, and they lay there in silence, the weight of the day pressing down. Clara had texted the details. She and Tom would meet Eli at a coffee shop on Flatbush Avenue at noon. Neutral ground, she'd called it. But to Eli, it felt like a battlefield. He spent the morning pacing, trying to piece together what he'd say. Part of him wanted to scream at Tom, to unload every ounce of pain he'd carried. Another part wanted to run, To leave Brooklyn and never look back. Jamie watched him, offering quiet support. His presence a reminder that Eli wasn't alone. At 11, they walked to the coffee shop, Jamie's hand brushing Eli's as they navigated the crowded streets. The shop was small, with mismatched chairs and the warm smell of espresso. Eli chose a table in the corner, his back to the wall, eyes fixed on the door. Jamie sat beside him, his knee pressed against Eli's under the table. A silent anchor. Clara arrived first, her face pale, her hands clutching her purse like a lifeline. She slid into a chair across from Eli, her eyes searching his. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I thought this could help. I thought maybe he'd changed." Eli's jaw tightened. "You should have asked me. Mom, you don't get to decide this for me." Before Clara could respond, the door swung open, and Tom walked in. Eli's breath caught. His father looked different older. Grayer. His broad shoulders stooped, his face lined with years of hard living. But those eyes, cold and piercing, were the same. Eli's heart pounded, memories of fists and shouts flooding back. Tom hesitated, then approached the table, his hands raised as if to show he meant no harm. "Eli," he said, his voice rough but measured. "Thank you for meeting me." Eli didn't move, his hands clenched in his lap. Jamie's knee pressed harder against his, a reminder to breathe. "I didn't want this," Eli said, his voice low. "Mom made me." Tom nodded, sitting slowly, as if afraid to startle him. "I know I don't deserve this chance. I was a monster back then. The drinking, the anger. I hurt you both. I'm sober now. 5 years. I've been in therapy, trying to make sense of who I was." Eli's laugh was sharp, cutting. "You think therapy erases what you did? You broke my arm. You made us run in the middle of the night. You don't get to just show up and say sorry." Tom flinched, but he didn't look away. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, Eli. I just want you to know I'm trying to be better. For you. For your mom." Clara's eyes were wet, but Eli's anger flared at her silence. "Why are you doing this, Mom?" he demanded. "Why bring him back now?" Clara's voice trembled. "When you told me you're gay, I panicked. I thought maybe if Tom could change, if he could accept you, it'd prove I didn't fail you completely. I wanted us to be a family again." Eli's chest ached, her words a mix of love and betrayal. "You didn't fail me by leaving him," he said. "You're failing me now, thinking he can fix this." Jamie's hand found Eli's under the table, squeezing gently. Tom cleared his throat, his voice softer now. "Clara told me about you, Eli, about who you are. I know I don't have a right to say this, but I'm not here to judge. I just want a chance to know you." The words hit Eli like a punch. He wanted to believe them, to believe in a father who could change. But the scars on his soul screamed otherwise. "You don't know me," Eli said, standing. "And I don't want you to." He walked out, Jamie following, leaving Clara and Tom behind. Outside, the city buzzed, indifferent to Eli's turmoil. Jamie pulled him into a hug, his arms strong and warm. "You did good," he said. "You faced him. That's more than most could do." Eli buried his face in Jamie's shoulder, tears burning his eyes. "I don't know if I can forgive her," he whispered, "or if I want to see him again." "You don't have to decide now," Jamie said. "You've got time, and you've got me." That night, Eli lay awake, Jamie's steady breathing beside him. The confrontation had left him raw, but there was a spark of clarity too. He wasn't the scared 7-year-old anymore. He was building a life, a love, with Jamie. Maybe that was enough for now. The days after the coffee shop confrontation felt like walking through fog. Eli went through the motions work at the bookstore. Dinners with Jamie. Nights staring at the ceiling, but his mind was trapped in a loop of Tom's face. Clara's tears. And the weight of choices he wasn't ready to make. Brooklyn's energy. Once a refuge. Now felt like a cage. Every street corner a reminder of the past crashing into his present. Jamie tried to keep him grounded. He'd show up with coffee or drag Eli to a movie. His easy humor a lifeline. One evening, as they walked along the East River, the city lights shimmering on the water, Jamie stopped and turned to Eli. "You're carrying too much," he said, his brown eyes searching. "Talk to me." "Eli, what's going on in there?" Eli kicked a pebble, watching it skitter into the dark. "I keep thinking about what Mom said. About wanting us to be a family. I don't even know what that means anymore. And Tom. He looked different. But I can't trust it. I can't trust her." Jamie nodded, his hands slipping into Eli's. "You don't have to trust them. You just have to trust yourself. You've built something real here, your job. Your friends. Us. That's your family now. If you want it to be." The words settled into Eli's chest. Warm but heavy. He wanted to believe in that future. But Clara's betrayal lingered. A wound that wouldn't close. She'd called twice since the meeting, leaving voicemails Eli couldn't bring himself to listen to. Part of him wanted to hear her out, to understand why she'd brought Tom back. Another part wanted to cut her off, to protect the fragile peace he'd found with Jamie. At work, Maya noticed the strain. During a slow afternoon, as they restocked shelves, she nudged him. "You've been a ghost lately. Still about your dad?" Eli nodded, shelving a book with more force than necessary. "And my mom. She thinks bringing him back will fix everything. Like my coming out broke something in her." Maya snorted, adjusting her glasses. "Parents can be messy. Mine took years to come around when I came out as bi. But you're allowed to set boundaries. You don't owe them a happy ending." Her words echoed Jamie's, and Eli clung to them as he navigated the next few days. But the past refused to stay buried. A week after the meeting, Eli found a letter in his mailbox, the handwriting unmistakably Clara's. His hands shook as he opened it, Jamie watching from the couch. "Dear Eli, I know I hurt you. I thought bringing Tom back could heal us. But I was wrong. I was scared when you came out, not because of who you are, but because I felt like I'd failed to protect you all those years. I thought if Tom could accept you, it'd prove I did something right. I see now how selfish that was. I love you, Eli, exactly as you are. I'm staying in Brooklyn for a few days. If you're ready to talk, I'm here. If not, I'll wait. Love, Mom." Eli's throat tightened, tears blurring the words. Jamie stood, wrapping his arms around him. "She's trying," he said softly. "Doesn't mean you have to forgive her right away." Eli nodded, but the letter stirred something in him, a flicker of hope. Or maybe just exhaustion. He didn't want to carry this anger forever, but he didn't know how to let it go either. The next day, Eli agreed to meet Clara at a park near his apartment. Jamie offered to come, but Eli shook his head. "I need to do this alone," he said, though his stomach twisted at the thought. Clara was waiting on a bench, her hands folded in her lap, her face drawn. When she saw Eli, she stood, her eyes searching his. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I should have listened to you. I thought I was helping, but I made it worse." Eli sat beside her, the bench cold against his legs. "Why didn't you tell me you were struggling with me being gay?" he asked. "You let me think you were ashamed." Clara's hands trembled. "I wasn't ashamed. I was scared. Scared you'd face a world that wouldn't accept you. And I wouldn't know how to protect you. Bringing Tom back was my way of trying to control something. Anything. But it was wrong. Eli looked at the trees, their leaves turning gold with autumn. I needed you to be on my side. Mom. Not his. I am, she said fiercely. I always will be. I messed up. They sat in silence, the weight of years between them. Eli wanted to believe her, but trust was a fragile thing, and his was still bruised. I need time, he said finally, but I don't want to lose you. Clara nodded, tears spilling over. I'll wait, Eli, as long as it takes. When Eli got home, Jamie was there, sketching at the table. He looked up, his smile soft. How'd it go? Eli shrugged, but a small smile tugged at his lips. It's a start. Eli's life settled into an uneasy rhythm. His talk with Clara had cracked open a door to reconciliation. But trust was a slow build, and he wasn't ready to let her fully back in. Jamie, though, was his constant as laughter, his steady hands, the way he'd hum old salsa tunes while cooking dinner. They were building something real, something Eli hadn't dared hope for, and it gave him the strength to keep moving forward. But Tom lingered like a shadow. Eli hadn't heard from him since the coffee shop, but Clara mentioned he was still in Brooklyn, staying at a cheap motel, attending AA meetings, and working on himself. Eli didn't care, or at least, he told himself he didn't. But late at night, when Jamie was asleep, Eli's mind would drift to Tom's words, I am trying to be better, and he'd wonder if change was possible, or if it was just another lie. One evening, as Eli and Jamie painted a mural for a community center, Jamie brought it up. You ever think about giving him a chance? He asked, dipping his brush in blue paint. Not forgiveness. Just a conversation. Eli frowned, smearing yellow across the wall. Why would I? He doesn't deserve it. Maybe he doesn't, Jamie said, his voice careful. But you deserve to know if he's really changed, or to tell him exactly how he hurt you. Either way, it's for you, not him. Eli paused, paint dripping from his brush. The idea of confronting Tom on his own terms felt differentless, like a trap, more like reclaiming power. But it scared him, too. What if Tom hadn't changed? Or worse, what if he had, and Eli still couldn't forgive him? The next day, Eli got a text from an unknown number. Eli, it's Tom. I'd like to see you again. Just to talk. No pressure. I'm at the motel on Atlantic Avenue, if you're willing. Eli stared at the message, his pulse racing. He showed it to Jamie, who raised an eyebrow. Your call, he said. I'll back you either way. Eli didn't reply, but the message burned in his mind. At work, Maya caught him staring into space and nudged him. You're thinking about your dad again, aren't you? Is it that obvious? Eli muttered. Yup, she said, stacking books. Look, I told you before you don't owe him anything. But if you're curious, go see him. Set your rules. Keep your distance. Don't let him control the story. Her words echoed Jamie's. And by evening, Eli made a decision. He texted Tom back, tomorrow, 3 p.m., same coffee shop. Don't be late. His hands shook as he hit send, but there was a strange relief in taking control. The next day, Eli arrived early, Jamie at his side. Tom was already there, sitting stiffly at a corner table, a cup of black coffee untouched in front of him. He looked up as Eli approached, his face a mix of hope and caution. Thanks for coming, Tom said, his voice low. I didn't think you would. I almost didn't, Eli said, sitting across from him. Jamie beside him. This isn't for you. It's for me. Tom nodded, his hands clasped tightly. Fair enough. I just want you to know I'm not the man I was. I was drunk most of your childhood. Eli. It's not an excuse, but it's the truth. I'm trying to make amends. Starting with you and your mom. Eli's jaw clenched. You think saying sorry fixes it? You terrorized us. I still have nightmares about you. Tom's face crumpled, but he didn't look away. I know. I live with that every day. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I see what I did. And I'm trying to be someone who'd never do that again. Eli wanted to scream, to walk away, but something in Tom's voice raw, broken made him pause. Why now? He asked. Why care after all these years? Tom hesitated, then said, when your mom told me about you, about who you are, it hit me hard. I was raised in a world that didn't accept people like you. I could have been that kind of father again, angry, cruel, but I don't want to be. I want to understand. Eli's chest tightened, a mix of anger and something softer, something dangerous like hope. You don't get to understand me, he said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Tom nodded, his eyes downcast. I'll respect that. I'm here if you ever change your mind. Eli stood, his heart pounding. Don't hold your breath. He walked out, Jamie's hand on his back, the weight of the moment lingering. Outside, Jamie pulled him close. You okay? Eli nodded, though he wasn't sure. I think I needed to say that. To see him and not feel small. Jamie smiled, kissing his forehead. You're anything but small. Eli. Eli felt lighter after facing Tom, but the weight of his past didn't vanish. It was like carrying a backpack with a few rocks removed, still heavy, but easier to bear. Jamie noticed the change, teasing Eli about the faint smile he caught him wearing at random moments. You're practically glowing, Jamie said one morning, tossing a pancake onto Eli's plate. Careful. I might get jealous of your good mood. Eli laughed, the sound freer than it had been in weeks. You're ridiculous, he said, but his heart swelled. Jamie's unwavering support was a gift he hadn't known he needed. A reminder that love could be steady, not a storm. But Clara remained a puzzle. Eli hadn't spoken to her since their park meeting, though her letter sat on his nightstand, its words memorized. He wanted to forgive her, to rebuild what they'd had. But her decision to bring Tom back still stung. He wasn't ready to let her in fully. Not yet. One afternoon, while shelving books, Eli got a call from an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. It was Clara, her voice soft but urgent. Eli, I'm still in Brooklyn. Can we meet? Just you and me. No Tom. I promise. Eli hesitated, glancing at Maya, who was pretending not to eavesdrop. She gave him a nod, as if to say, go for it. Okay, Eli said into the phone. The park again. Tomorrow. Noon. The park was quieter this time, the autumn leaves crunching under Eli's boots as he approached Clara. She looked fragile, her eyes red-rimmed, but she smiled when she saw him. Thank you, she said, standing. I wasn't sure you'd come. Eli sat beside her, keeping some distance. I almost didn't. But I miss you, Mom. I don't understand why you thought Tom was the answer. Clara's hands twisted in her lap. I was wrong. I thought if he could change, it'd mean I hadn't failed you completely. I've spent years blaming myself for not protecting you better, for letting him hurt us. When you came out, I got scared not of you, but of the world. I thought if Tom could accept you, it'd mean you were safe. Eli's throat tightened. I don't need him to accept me. I needed you. I know, Clara whispered, tears falling. I'm here now. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust again. Eli looked at her, seeing the woman who'd carried him away from danger at 7, who'd worked endless hours to give him a chance. I want that too, he said, but it's going to take time. Clara nodded, wiping her eyes. I'll wait. I love you, Eli. Always. They talked for an hour. Small steps toward healing. Eli didn't forgive her fully, but he felt the possibility of it, like a seed planted in uncertain soil. When he got home, Jamie was waiting, his sketchpad open to a new drawing a park bench. 2 figures sitting close, autumn leaves swirling around them. Is that us? Eli asked, leaning over his shoulder. Jamie grinned. Maybe. Or maybe it's you and your mom, finding your way back. Eli kissed him, grateful for the man who saw him so clearly. You're too good for me, he teased. Never, Jamie said, pulling him close. The next week, Eli threw himself into his life work. Art classes with Jamie. Nights exploring Brooklyn's hidden corners. But Tom's presence lingered. A question mark Eli couldn't erase. He hadn't responded to Tom's last meeting, but the idea of closure gnawed at him. Jamie's words echoed, it's for you, not him. One evening, Eli found himself Googling Tom's name. Curiosity winning out. He found an article about a local AA group, mentioning a Thomas Bennett who'd spoken about his journey to sobriety. The photo showed Tom, older but softer, standing with other recovering alcoholics. His smile tentative. Eli stared at it, torn between skepticism and a flicker of hope. He showed the article to Jamie, who read it quietly. What do you think? Jamie asked. I don't know, Eli admitted. Part of me wants to believe he's changed. Part of me thinks it's a trap. Jamie set the phone down. You don't have to decide now. But if you want to talk to him again, I'll be there. Or I'll wait outside. Whatever you need. Eli nodded, his heart full. Jamie's love was a foundation he could build on, no matter what came next. That night, he dreamed not of Tom's fists, but of a park bench, a letter, and a future where he could choose who to let in. Eli's days began to feel like his own again, the shadow of Tom fading as he leaned into the life he was building with Jamie. They spent weekends exploring Brooklyn's flea markets, laughing over vintage records and sharing greasy tacos from food trucks. Jamie's warmth was a balm, soothing the raw edges of Eli's heart. But Clara's words, and Tom's tentative steps toward redemption, lingered like an unresolved chord. One crisp October morning, Eli woke to a text from Tom. I'm speaking at an AA meeting tonight. I'd be honored if you came. No pressure to talk. 7 p.m. Community Center on Fulton. Eli stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the delete button. But something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity. Or maybe it was the need to see Tom in a context that wasn't about Ellie a chance to observe, not confront. He showed the text to Jamie over breakfast. You want to go? Jamie asked, flipping a pancake with a practiced flick. I don't know, Eli said, stirring his coffee. I don't want to give him hope. But I want to see if he's for real. Does that make sense? Jamie nodded, his eyes steady. It does. Want you to come? Eli hesitated, then shook his head. I think I need to do this alone. But I'll call you after. That evening, Eli walked to the community center. His stomach knotted. The room was packed with folding chairs, the air thick with coffee and nervous energy. Tom stood at the front, looking out of place in a clean flannel shirt, his hands fidgeting. When he saw Eli, his eyes widened. But he didn't approach, just gave a small nod. Tom's speech was raw, unpolished. He talked about his years of drinking, the rage that consumed him, the family he'd destroyed. "I hurt my son and my wife," he said, his voice breaking. "I can't undo that. But I'm here, sober, trying to be a man they wouldn't be ashamed of." Eli's chest tightened. His hands clenched in his lap. He wanted to feel nothing. But Tom's words stirred something anger. Yes, but also a flicker of pity. After the meeting, Tom approached cautiously. "Thanks for coming," he said. "I didn't expect you to." "I didn't expect to either," Eli said, his voice flat. "I'm not here to forgive you. I just wanted to see." Tom nodded, his face weary but open. "That's more than I deserve. I'm not asking for anything, Eli. Just, I'm proud of you. For who you are. For the life you've built." Eli's throat closed, the words hitting harder than he expected. He turned and left without responding, the cool night air a shock against his burning eyes. He called Jamie, who met him at a diner, sliding into the booth with a worried frown. "How was it?" Eli shook his head, struggling to find words. He sounded genuine. "But I don't know if I believe it. Or if I want to." Jamie reached for his hand. "You don't have to decide tonight. You're allowed to take your time." The next day, Eli met Clara for coffee, their first meeting since the park. She looked hopeful but cautious, her hands wrapped around a mug. "I heard you went to Tom's meeting," she said. "How was it?" "Hard," Eli admitted. "He's trying, I think. But I don't know if it's enough." Clara nodded, her eyes soft. "I'm proud of you for going. And I'm sorry again. For pushing this. I'm learning. Eli." They talked longer this time. The conversation easier, though not without pain. Eli felt the slow mending of their bond, like stitching a torn seam. He didn't trust her fully, but he wanted to try. That night, Jamie took Eli to a rooftop party in Bushwick, the city skyline glittering below. They danced under string lights, Jamie's arms around Eli, their laughter mingling with the music. For the first time in weeks, Eli felt free, the weight of his past not gone, but lighter. As they swayed, Jamie whispered, "I love you, Eli." The words were simple, but they anchored Eli, grounding him in a present that felt like home. "I love you too," Eli said, his voice steady. And in that moment, he knew he was choosing his future Jamie, Clara, himself over the ghosts of his past. The autumn deepened, Brooklyn's streets ablaze with crimson and gold, mirroring the slow burn of change in Eli's life. He and Jamie were inseparable now, their love a quiet strength that steadied Eli through the uncertainty of his past. Clara, too, was becoming a presence again, their weekly coffees a tentative bridge back to trust. But Tom remained the unanswered question, a wound that hadn't fully healed. One evening, as Eli and Jamie carved pumpkins on their apartment floor, Eli brought it up. "I keep thinking about Tom," he said, scooping out seeds. "Not forgiving him. Exactly. But what it means to move on." Jamie paused, his knife hovering over a jagged grin. "Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means deciding he doesn't get to define you anymore." Eli nodded, the words sinking in. He'd spent so long running from Tom's shadow. But maybe closure wasn't about erasing the past, it was about choosing who he wanted to be now. The next day, Eli called Tom, his heart pounding as the phone rang. "I'm not ready for more meetings," Eli said when Tom answered. "But I need to say something. You hurt me, and that's never going away. But I'm building a life now, and you're not part of it. Maybe someday, but not now." Tom's voice was quiet. "I understand, Eli. I'll respect that." Thank you for telling me. Hanging up felt like cutting a tether. Freeing but heavy. Eli told Jamie, who pulled him into a hug. You did it, Jamie said. You set your terms. The weeks that followed were a blur of small victories. Eli got a promotion at the bookstore, taking on more responsibility, his confidence growing. He and Clara planned a quiet Thanksgiving. Just the two of them. A chance to rebuild without Tom's shadow. Jamie's family invited Eli to their Christmas celebration in the Bronx. A loud, warm affair that left Eli dizzy with belonging. One night, as snow dusted Brooklyn streets, Eli and Jamie walked hand in hand to a queer art show they'd helped organize. The gallery was packed, the air buzzing with laughter and creativity. Eli's paintings hung on one wall bold, abstract swirls of color that spoke of pain and hope. Jamie's sculptures, sturdy and intricate, stood nearby, a perfect complement. As they stood together, watching strangers admire their work, Eli felt a surge of gratitude. For Jamie, who'd loved him through his darkest moments. For Clara, who was trying to be better. For himself. For surviving. Happy? Jamie asked, nudging him. Eli smiled, his heart full. Yeah, really happy. The night ended with them on their apartment's fire escape, wrapped in a blanket, the city glowing below. Eli thought of the 7-year-old boy who'd run from a trailer in Ohio, scared and bruised. That boy was still part of him, but he wasn't the whole story. The man he'd become loved, strong, unashamed, was writing a new chapter. I used to think I'd never escape him, Eli said, his voice soft. But I did. And I found you. Jamie kissed him, the snow falling softly around them. We found each other, he said. And in that moment, Eli knew he'd chosen his family, his love, his truth. The past would always be there, but it no longer held the pen. He was free.